Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about something every woman has felt at some point, that ache when a man seems distant, indifferent, or maybe even done. You tell yourself you shouldn't care, but deep down, there's a part of you that wants him to feel your absence, to miss your voice, to wonder where you went, to wish he hadn't taken you for granted. The question isn't, how do I make him chase me? It's, how do I make him feel what I once felt, that magnetic pull that keeps him thinking about me long after I'm gone? The answer starts not with him, but with you. Because missing someone isn't about what you say to them, it's about the experience they had with you. You don't make someone miss you by being available every time they call. You make them miss you by being the person who leaves an imprint, a memory that lingers because it was tied to something rarer, your energy, your presence, your standards. Most people think that to make someone miss them, they have to play games, ignore texts, post something online to get attention, or pretend they're unbothered. But those things don't make someone miss you. They make you look like you're trying. What actually makes someone miss you is the emotional contrast between what they had with you and what they have without you. When you pull your energy back, not out of spite, but out of self-respect, something powerful happens. That space you create becomes loud. Suddenly, he's not hearing your voice every morning. He's not getting those thoughtful check-ins. He's not feeling that warmth that used to come from your presence. It's in that silence that his mind starts to replay the moments he took for granted. He remembers the way you made him laugh, the way you believed in him when he doubted himself, the calm you brought to his chaos. But here's the catch. None of that works if, while you're gone, you're still waiting. If your silence is a strategy instead of a state of peace, he'll feel that energy. Men are not blind to emotional need. When your distance is forced, it carries tension. But when your distance comes from self-assurance, from truly knowing your worth, it radiates confidence. That's the kind of energy that draws a man back, not because you manipulated him into missing you, but because he feels the loss of something real. So, how do you create that? By shifting your focus entirely off of him, by making your absence meaningful, not for him, but for you. This is the moment you start feeding your own life again. You go out with friends not to show you're fine, but because you are fine. You pursue your passions again. You start investing in yourself with the same intensity you once invested in him. Because the moment you become fulfilled again, you step into the most attractive version of yourself, the one who isn't waiting, the one who is living. That version of you is magnetic. And here's why. Men don't miss the woman who sits around hoping he'll text. They miss the woman who challenged them, who inspired them, who had a life that didn't revolve around them. They miss the woman who could make him laugh and also make him think. They miss the woman who had boundaries, who said no when something didn't align with her values. They miss the woman who had the courage to walk away when her heart wanted to stay. When you stop chasing, something shifts. You stop feeding the dynamic that made you feel small. You stop giving attention to someone who hasn't earned it. And ironically, that's when the energy flips. He starts to wonder where your attention went. He starts to question why your energy feels different. He starts to sense that he's no longer in control of how you feel. And that's the exact moment curiosity is born. Curiosity is what drives missing. It's the unknown that pulls a man back when he doesn't know what you're thinking, what you're doing, or how you feel. That mystery creates space for desire to grow again. You don't create that by faking indifference. You create it by genuinely reclaiming your life. Every time you resist the urge to reach out, you're not just showing him your strength, you're building it. Every moment you choose your peace over proving your worth, you teach your heart a new kind of power, because real confidence isn't loud, it's quiet, it's calm. It's the look in your eyes that says, I'm okay with or without you. And that's the energy that keeps a man awake at night wondering if he made a mistake. There's something profoundly attractive about a woman who doesn't need validation, a woman who can walk away without bitterness, a woman who can still wish someone well while refusing to accept less than she deserves. That kind of energy makes an impression that no amount of words can replace. You see, missing isn't caused by proximity, it's caused by impact. You can be sitting next to someone and feel invisible, or you can be miles away and still live rent-free in their mind. The difference is how you made them feel. When you've made a man feel truly seen, when you've brought value into his life without losing yourself, that stays. But when you reclaim your power, when you take your love and give it back to yourself, that's when he realizes just how valuable your energy was. And even if he wasn't interested before, even if he thought he'd moved on, something inside him will start to shift. Because attraction fades, but value lingers. The way you carried yourself, the peace you brought, the moments where you didn't chase, but simply were. That's the kind of woman who leaves a mark that time can erase. So don't try to make him miss you by proving your worth. Make him miss you by living it. Because when you stop trying to be chosen and start choosing yourself, that's when your absence becomes unforgettable. And here's the thing most people never tell you. Making a man miss you isn't about pulling away to punish him. It's about realignment. It's about pulling your energy back to remind yourself of who you were before you started shrinking to fit into his world. Because when you start losing yourself in someone, they stop seeing you clearly. Familiarity can dull appreciation. When you become too accessible, too predictable, it creates comfort, but not desire. Desire lives in the unknown. It's in the quiet spaces between your texts. It's in the times he doesn't know where you are, what you're doing, or who you're with. But that mystery can't come from playing games. It comes from genuinely living a life that doesn't orbit around him. The moment you start focusing on your world, your goals, your joy, your growth, he begins to feel the gap. That's when missing takes root. Because now he's not just losing access to your presence, he's losing access to your energy. And that's what men crave most, energy. The kind that's feminine yet powerful. Soft yet grounded, the kind of energy that walks into a room and shifts the entire atmosphere. That's the energy that stays with a man long after the conversation ends. But to have that energy, you must first become whole on your own. You can't expect someone to feel your absence when you're not even present within yourself. When you truly love yourself, you operate differently. You don't chase reassurance. You don't settle for crumbs of attention. You don't send that extra message just to feel seen, because you already see yourself. You already know your worth. And that self-assurance is magnetic. When a man senses that you no longer need his validation, he begins to question why. When your energy shifts from, I hope he calls, to, I'm busy building my life, he feels the difference. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. And here's something powerful. When you stop needing someone to choose you, you create space for them to want to. There's a big difference between being needed and being desired. A man may enjoy being needed, but he'll chase what he desires, and desire can't grow in a space of desperation. It grows in mystery, in admiration, in respect. When you're too available, you give him no reason to wonder. But when you start saying no, when you prioritize your peace over his convenience, he starts to see your value in a new light. Maybe he doesn't come back right away. Maybe he doesn't even realize what he's missing until weeks or months later. But make no mistake, your energy leaves a mark. The way you loved, the way you carried yourself, the calm you brought, it lingers. It shows up in the quiet moments when his life feels empty. It shows up when he's around others who don't understand him the way you did. That's when your absence becomes a mirror reflecting everything he lost. But you don't do it for that. You do it because your peace deserves protection. You do it because you've outgrown chasing half-hearted effort. Because your love is too sacred to be spent convincing someone to care. When you reach that point, you begin to radiate a different frequency, one that says, I'm not angry, I'm just unavailable for anything less than mutual effort. That's the energy that draws people in without you lifting a finger. When you carry yourself like that, people feel it. You walk differently. You speak differently. You don't need to announce your worth. It's evident in your boundaries, in your silence, in your smile that no longer hides pain. That kind of strength doesn't shout, it whispers. And that whisper echoes in a man's mind long after you've walked away. Remember this, men don't just miss the moments, they miss the feeling you gave them. They miss how they felt around you, inspired, grounded, alive. When you remove yourself, they don't just lose a person, they lose that emotional experience. And it takes time for that realization to sink in. But it always does, because genuine connection is rare, authentic energy is unforgettable. But here's the paradox. The more you try to make him miss you, the less he will. Because trying comes from fear, it comes from lack. But when you truly let go, when you stop trying to control the outcome, your energy shifts from need to neutrality. And that neutrality is powerful. It says, I'm not waiting, I'm evolving. That's when you become irresistible. not because you're chasing, but because you're creating an emotional vacuum he can't fill with anyone else. When you're in that energy, even your absence speaks. Your silence becomes a message. Your calm becomes a statement. You're no longer reacting. You're responding with grace. You're no longer begging for attention. You're commanding respect. You're no longer trying to remind him of your worth. You're then as living it. And that's when everything changes. He may start reaching out, maybe casually at first, maybe to test the waters, but your response, or lack of it, will tell him everything he needs to know. If he senses that your peace no longer depends on him, he'll feel that shift in power. Because for the first time, he'll realize that the version of you who once waited for him no longer exists. And that realization is what stirs longing in his heart. Because it's not the same woman he's missing anymore. It's the evolved version of her, the one who found strength in silence, power in distance, and beauty in independence. That woman is magnetic. That woman doesn't need to be chased because she naturally draws people toward her through her confidence and clarity. And when he does come back, it won't be because of the words you said. It'll be because of the energy you became, because you stopped operating from fear and started embodying abundance. When a woman moves from "I need you" to "I choose me," everything changes. That's when a man starts to see her differently, not as an option, but as an opportunity he may have lost. Even if he doesn't admit it, he feels it. He feels it when he scrolls through his phone and sees your name, but doesn't have the courage to text. He feels it when he's around other people, but none of them carry the same spark. He feels it when he remembers how easy it was to be himself around you. And now that ease is gone, that's what missing really is. The absence of emotional safety, the absence of connection, the absence of energy that can't be replicated. So when you find yourself tempted to reach out, remind yourself silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. Every time you choose distance over desperation, you reclaim a piece of your power. Every time you choose to stay grounded instead of reactive, you reinforce your self-worth. And every time you focus on building your own peace, you make yourself unforgettable. A man might forget your words, your jokes, even your looks, but he will never forget how he felt when he was around you. Especially if that feeling was rooted in your authenticity, your warmth, and your strength. That's the kind of energy that lingers, not because you demanded attention, but because you embodied something real. And that's how you make any man miss you badly, not through games, not through manipulation, but by being the kind of woman whose presence changes the atmosphere and whose absence demands reflection, by being someone whose energy can't be replaced and whose peace can't be disturbed. Because when you reach that level of self-worth, missing you becomes inevitable. Because what truly makes someone unforgettable isn't what you did for them. It's who you were when you were around them. It's the way you made them feel seen in a world where everyone's performing. It's the calm in your voice when they were overwhelmed. It's the honesty in your eyes when everyone else told them what they wanted to hear. That's what makes someone miss you. Not perfection, not beauty, but presence, because presence is rare. Most people are so caught up in wanting to be loved that they forget how powerful it is just to FB. When you learn to just be, to exist fully in your own energy, not as someone's reflection, not as someone's fantasy, but as yourself, you stand out in a way that nothing superficial ever could. And when you pull that presence away, it's like taking sunlight out of a room. People may not understand why it suddenly feels colder, quieter, emptier, but they feel it. That's the void your energy leaves behind. That's what makes a man stop and think, what was it about her? The truth is, most men don't realize the depth of your impact until they experience life without it. It's easy to overlook something constant. It's easy to take for granted what feels secure. But absence has a way of waking people up. It strips away the noise. It makes them face the truth they didn't want to see. That not everyone is replaceable, that not every connection can be replicated, that sometimes they had something extraordinary and didn't even know it. And while that realization hits him, you're somewhere else, evolving. You're not sitting still, waiting for him to notice. You're out there writing new stories. You're laughing again, not because someone made you laugh, but because you found joy in your own company. You're reconnecting with yourself in ways you forgot were possible. That evolution is the very thing that deepens the longing. Because now, if he ever sees you again, he's not looking at the same person. He's looking at someone stronger, wiser, freer, someone he can't quite predict anymore. And that unpredictability is intoxicating. You see, there's something irresistible about growth. When a person evolves, it triggers curiosity in everyone who once knew them. They wonder, what changed? How did she become like that? And the truth is, what changed was the energy. You stopped waiting. You stopped needing permission. You started choosing peace over patterns. That's what draws people back. Not your absence alone, but what your absence creates. When a man feels that shift, he starts to question himself. He starts to replay the last conversation, the last moment, trying to figure out where the balance tipped. He wonders if you still think about him, if you still care, if there's still a chance. He begins to feel the same uncertainty that you once felt. And that's when empathy begins to grow. He starts to understand what it feels like to miss someone who's no longer available emotionally, someone who gave everything and then gracefully stepped back. But remember, your goal was never to make him feel small. Your goal was to find yourself again. And the beautiful irony is that when you do, people who took you for granted start to see you differently, because confidence changes the way others perceive you. It changes your energy, your tone, your presence. You're no longer asking to be valued, you're radiating value. And people feel that before they even understand it. The most powerful thing you can do is move forward without resentment. When you let go with peace instead of anger, your absence becomes something elegant. It doesn't scream, "You lost me." It whispers, it leaves him wondering why he feels that ache without you ever having to say a word. That's emotional maturity. That's grace. And grace has a gravitational pull. There's also something magnetic about mystery. When a man feels he's figured you out, his curiosity fades. But when you continue to grow, when you stay unpredictable, you remain interesting. You're no longer the woman who reacted to every message or waited by the phone. You're the woman who's out there creating, learning, exploring, the woman whose life is full of meaning. That's what makes someone miss you deeply. Knowing that they no longer have access to something alive, something dynamic, something real. Every time you pour into yourself, you build a new layer of attraction. You become someone who's not chasing love, but attracting it through authenticity. Because love, the kind that lasts, is drawn to wholeness, not dependency. When you reach a place where you can say, "I want someone, but I don't need them," that's when your energy becomes undeniable. That's when you stop being an option and start being an experience. And that's the thing about being unforgettable. It's not about trying harder. It's about being truer. When you're authentic, people remember you differently. They remember your essence, not just your actions. And when they meet others who can't match that essence, they start to realize what they lost. Because it's not about being better than someone else. It's about being irreplaceable in the way only you can be. Sometimes he'll try to fill the void quickly. He might date someone else, distract himself, convince himself that he's moved on. But deep down, something won't feel the same. Because you can replace a person, but you can't replace a connection that was built on truth. That dissonance, that quiet emptiness he can't explain, is the sound of missing you. And while he's learning that lesson, you're building something far more important, your peace. You're no longer fighting for someone to stay. You're fighting for your own joy. You're building a life that doesn't depend on anyone's attention to feel meaningful. You're discovering that the love you were chasing externally was meant to be built internally first. And that realization changes everything. When a man sees that you no longer seek from him what you found within yourself, he feels the shift in energy. You're no longer projecting need. You're radiating fulfillment. That kind of energy doesn't chase. It attracts effortlessly. Because true attraction isn't about pursuit, it's about gravity. And when you become grounded in your worth, people orbit toward you naturally. It's also important to understand that making someone miss you isn't about disappearing forever. It's about creating a new dynamic, one where your energy is respected, not assumed, one where your boundaries create desire instead of resistance. Because boundaries don't push people away, they teach them how to come closer the right way. When a man realizes that your world doesn't revolve around him, but you still have love to give, that's when he begins to value your presence more deeply. There will be moments where you'll be tempted to go back, to check in, to remind him of what he's missing. But every time you resist the urge, you strengthen the bond with yourself. You're not ignoring him, you're honoring you. You're saying, "I trust that what's meant for me won't need to be chased." That's the highest form of self respect. And that self-respect changes the way others see you forever. Because once someone has seen you walk away gracefully, not out of anger, but out of love for yourself, they never forget it. They may move on, they may date others, they may even act like they're fine. But somewhere deep down, there's a part of them that will always remember how it felt to lose someone who knew their worth. And that memory, that quiet awareness of what they once had and will never find again in the same way. That's the kind of missing that lingers. It's not loud. It's not desperate. It's that quiet ache that comes back in unexpected moments, reminding them that the connection they took for granted was something sacred. And once a man feels that once he truly understands what it means to lose your presence, he will never look at you the same way again. Because once that realization hits, it changes everything. Suddenly, what once seemed ordinary begins to look extraordinary in hindsight. The small moments that didn't seem significant, the way you listened, the way you smiled, the calm you brought, start to replay in his mind like scenes from a movie he didn't appreciate until the credits rolled. That's what happens when someone finally feels the absence of genuine energy. It's not the grand gestures they remember, it's the consistency, the peace, the effortless connection that can't be faked. And that realization doesn't come all at once. It creeps in slowly. It shows up when he's alone at night, scrolling through old photos or messages, pretending not to care but unable to stop himself. It shows up when he meets new people and keeps comparing the connection, wondering why it doesn't feel the same. It shows up in quiet moments when life feels dull and he realizes that the excitement he once thought he didn't need was actually coming from your presence. That's when it hits him, not just that he misses you, but that he underestimated you. But by the time he reaches that point, you've already outgrown the version of yourself that needed his validation. You're not standing in the same emotional place anymore. You've evolved past the waiting stage. You've learned that missing you is his lesson, not your responsibility. You've learned that love isn't proven by chasing. It's proven by maintaining your value even when you're unseen. And that's what makes your energy even more powerful now, because you've become someone who no longer depends on being remembered to feel valuable. You've realized that your worth isn't determined by whether or not someone regrets losing you. It's determined by how deeply you know yourself, how fiercely you protect your peace, and how gracefully you move forward. That's when you step into a new level of confidence, the kind that doesn't need validation to shine. This kind of self-assurance changes the way you move through life. You stop chasing closure because you've already given it to yourself. You stop over-explaining because your actions already speak louder than words. You stop replaying what went wrong and start focusing on what's next. And in doing that, you begin to rebuild your energy into something unstoppable, something that not only draws people in, but also filters out those who don't match your frequency. When a man senses that shift, it stirs something deep inside him because he's no longer feeling your energy directed toward him. He's feeling the absence of it. That silence that once felt like peace to him now feels heavy. The calm he took for granted now feels like emptiness. The attention he once dismissed now feels like something he can't replace. That's the power of walking away with grace. You don't just leave his world, you take the warmth you brought with you. And when he starts to miss that warmth, he might try to reach out. Not always directly, sometimes through subtle ways. A like on social media, a casual message, a reminder that he still exists in your mind. But the real test isn't whether he reaches out, it's how you respond. Because the woman who has grown doesn't respond out of nostalgia, she responds out of clarity. She knows that the same energy that once begged for attention now demands respect. You no longer seek validation from his curiosity. You no longer interpret his messages as proof of your worth. Instead, you see them for what they are, signs that your absence made an impact. But you don't chase that impact, you let it exist, because your life is no longer about proving anything to anyone. It's about embodying the peace you fought so hard to create. And that's what makes you unforgettable, not because you made him regret, not because you won the game, but because you walked away from the game entirely. Because while he was focused on ego, you were focused on elevation. While he was wondering what you were doing, you were becoming everything he didn't have the patience to appreciate. There's something incredibly magnetic about someone who no longer needs closure from another person to heal, because that kind of strength can't be faked. It's the kind of energy that says, I've learned, I've grown, and I've let go. It's calm, it's grounded, it's powerful. And that's exactly the energy that keeps someone thinking about you long after you're gone. He'll think about how easy it was to talk to you, how you made him feel understood in ways others couldn't, how you had this balance between softness and strength, between warmth and independence. That balance is rare, and once a man experiences it, he can't unfeel it. He can look for distractions, chase new experiences, surround himself with noise, but deep down, he'll always know the difference between attention and connection, and what he had with you was connection. But by then, your world will have expanded. You'll be focused on your goals, your joy, your next chapter. You won't be waiting for anyone to realize your worth because you already have. You'll be attracting new energy, people who see you, value you, and meet you where you are. And here's the beautiful irony. When you finally stop trying to make anyone miss you, that's when everyone does. Because genuine self-assurance is magnetic, it's rare, it's undeniable. Men don't miss the woman who tries to prove her worth. They miss the woman who lives it. They miss the woman who can walk away without losing her softness. The woman who doesn't close her heart but raises her standards. The woman who loves deeply but refuses to settle for half-hearted effort. That woman doesn't chase love. She attracts it naturally because her energy speaks before she does. And that's what true power looks like. It's not in how loudly you demand to be noticed. It's in how peacefully you can disappear and still be felt. It's in how you can love someone fully, lose them gracefully, and still continue to grow. It's in the quiet confidence that says, I don't need you to remember me. I'm already unforgettable. The beauty of this transformation is that it's not about revenge. It's about reclamation. You're taking back the parts of yourself that you gave away too freely. You're taking back your emotional energy, your focus, your time, and as you do that, you become whole again. And wholeness is what every person craves, whether they realize it or not. That's why when he finally feels the weight of missing you, it won't just be about nostalgia. It'll be about recognition. Recognition that what he lost wasn't just a connection. It was peace, inspiration, and authenticity. It was the rare experience of being around someone who knew how to love deeply without losing herself. And that's something that leaves a permanent mark. Because the truth is, people don't miss who you were when you were desperate for their attention. They miss who you become when you finally stop needing them. They miss your energy when it becomes rooted in confidence instead of fear. They miss the version of you that they can't reach anymore, the one who grew beyond the dynamic they once had. And maybe he'll come back one day. Maybe he'll try to reconnect to see if there's still a spark. But even if he does, you'll look at him differently. Not with bitterness, not with longing, but with understanding. Because you'll realize that what made him miss you wasn't your absence, but your evolution. You didn't just disappear from his life, you outgrew the version of yourself that once needed his approval. And that is what makes you truly unforgettable, the woman who turned silence into strength, distance into growth, and heartbreak into power. Because when you rise like that, when you transform pain into purpose, there's no one who won't feel your absence. There's no one who won't remember the impact you made simply by being who you are.